welcome to the Rick Fuller podcast, presented by Rick Fuller, the team leader of the Rick Fuller team, which serves the San Francisco Bay Area and the greater Sacramento region. Rick and his team have over 1,000 five-star online reviews and have been honored as a distinguished small business by the California State Senate and Assembly. Rick is a community leader, national real estate coach, and real estate investing expert. I'm Christina Morales, a writer and marketing specialist, and today we're going to talk about Prop 19, which I'm sure you've been getting a ton of questions about. So I did a little bit of homework. I love research. And so I found this article from the Mercury News, and it was called California's Growing Senior Population by the Numbers. Now, while 55 years young isn't a senior, here are some numbers to think about before we start. Over 9 million Californians are over the age of 55, which is more than the entire state of Oregon, which has 4.7 million people. And that's about 25% of our state's population. And the article said that by the mid-2030s, California's 65 plus population will grow by more than 65%. So Rick, you have a big audience that you need to address. Yeah, there's a lot. And I found this little term that I thought was hilarious. These growing senior population, it's called the Silver Tsunami. So I haven't heard of that.
The wave that's coming.
Right. I hadn't heard of that before. So I thought, let's prepare for this Silver Tsunami. So Rick, it seems like Prop 19 is the convergence of this Silver Tsunami, hot real estate market. It talks about the recent wildfires, and also COVID-19 has had a big impact on our world. So tell us how all of this is converging to make Prop 19. What's going on here?
Well, you mentioned several of them. COVID, the wildfires, we don't have enough homes on the market. We have a red hot real estate market where homes are appreciating and rising at unprecedented levels. But there's a couple other factors, Christina, that we could add to it. Number one is you have a massive migration that's occurring, especially for our Northern California residents. You and I wrote a book on this topic called The Great Migration, and it's people moving from urban environments to suburban, from suburban to rural. Like they're making a U-turn back in history. When people move to urban environments, they're kind of moving to more suburban and rural. A perfect example is that in the San Francisco Bay Area, of the people that are moving, a third remain in their county. A third move to the greater Sacramento region, the El Dorado Hills, the Folsom, the Roseville, Elk Grove, Sacramento, and a third of them move out of state. And so that tends to be the three blocks of where people are moving. So the other factor that we could certainly add into this is we do not have enough houses. Decades have gone by and we have not constructed enough homes. And now we're in a situation as a state where we have a housing inventory crisis. That's the official term the state of California has put on what is occurring in the state, that we just don't have enough housing. So what about Prop 19? Well, Prop 19 may be part of the solution, and it just went into effect April 1st because Prop 19 encourages mobility. It encourages somebody who's 55 and older, a wildfire victim, or that's severely disabled, to move anywhere in the state of California and move their property tax base. And so all of these things are kind of merging, and Prop 19 may be a part of the solution to create mobility in our community so people feel comfortable moving, and they're not going to have to pay the incredibly high property taxes, because property taxes are related to what you purchased the home for. They can move, it's like they're moving their bed, and they're moving their entertainment center, and they're moving, their flat screen TV, and they're going to move their property tax base along with them.
You talked about the shortage of houses. Are they building more 55 and older communities? And then, because I'm thinking of Prop 19 and mobilization, do those go hand in hand also?
Well, they absolutely do. And we're seeing a lot more 55 and older communities, and they're designed in all different environments. We see 55 and older communities that are single family homes, 55 and older HOAs where it's a condo or townhome. We even see 55 and older mobile home parks. So whatever the environment is, they're starting to build properties because there is that silver tsunami coming. A large portion of the population are baby boomers, and they are reaching that 55 and older, or already there and looking at making the transition. And part of the reason why is maybe they're now empty nesters. And so they don't need a 4-bedroom. It's time for that 2-bedroom in a Somerset or in the Vineyards or in the Trilogy. And they're looking for a 2-bedroom. For some people, it's time to move from the inner city, maybe close to their job or close to employment or close to schools. And maybe those things are of less importance today. And now they're moving to more vacation locations, more vacation home type environments, second home communities. And so it creates a lot of opportunity for mobility. And Prop 19 really takes the handcuffs off of 55 and older homeowners to encourage them to help feed into the economy, buy real estate, make the move, find something that's better equipped for their family. And every time that you sell a house, it not only helps the real estate market and helps the real estate economy, but it helps all the other associated economies along the way. Think about it. When you go buy a house, where do you visit? The Home Depot, the Lowe's, you're at the flooring store, you're meeting with a painter. I mean, these are the things we all do when we buy a house. And some of the biggest investment in real estate is often when somebody buys and sells it. And so that's money that's going into the economy, the local economy, that allows mobility and an increase of vibrancy in the economy because of people have that opportunity to move.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're the team leader of 50 plus specialists now in the Bay Area and Greater Sacramento region, like we mentioned. And you've sold, I don't even know how many hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate you've sold. So you have a large portion of your clientele, which has been 55 and older or is approaching it. Can you give us a little snapshot of what they're looking for and about the equity that they have in their home? What's the average that you're seeing and how can this benefit them?
Well, we have a ton of our clients that are 55 and older that are utilizing Prop 19. To me, it's sad if you don't know about Prop 19 and you sell your property and you move and a certain amount of time elapses, you cannot benefit from it. Like, you have to know about it. You have to apply for it. So we're telling all of our clients where it's applicable that Prop 19 may be of something of benefit for them. And why is it of benefit for somebody who's 55 and older? Well, we recently sold a home in the city of Concord, and they had purchased the home in the late 70s, and they were under what's called Prop 13. And you say, what's Prop 13? Well, Prop 13 says when you buy a property, the property is then assessed at 1% of the assessed value as your property tax base. And so then what happens is it can only move every year 2%, your property tax base. Well, certainly the real estate market has appreciated since the 70s far more than 2% per year, and it's outpaced those property taxes. And so we recently sold a home in Concord, and she had paid $7,500 for the property. Wow. Sold a home in Antioch a couple of years ago, and they had paid $5,700 for the property. But in all of my years of doing this, Christine, and this is year number 18, I finally met somebody who bought a property at the turn of the century in the early 1900s, and they paid $150 for the property here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So you think about that. A lot of our family, a lot of our friends, a lot of those that are 55 and older, they bought homes decades ago. Prices were significantly less than what they are today. Therefore, their property tax base under Prop 13, which was established in the late 70s, is really, really low. And if they sell and they don't use Prop 19, then what they buy the next property at often becomes the assessed value, and they're paying significantly higher taxes. So the ability to take with you that low property tax base is saving homeowners hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars every year. And unlike other types of taxation, this is a reoccurring tax, right? We're talking about property tax. So you're going to pay it usually in 2 installments in California. You're going to pay it once in November, you're going to pay it again in February, and then you're going to pay it again the following year and the next year. And for as long as you own that property, you're going to pay property tax. Therefore, if we can keep your property tax low, you're going to benefit every year from having a lower tax base and it not being reassessed, because selling a property or buying a property becomes a new assessable event. We want to avoid that, and that's what Prop 19 allows people to do.
So we've been talking about Prop 19, and I would love for you to just to give us an overview. Let's talk about, like, what is it actually saying? Can you just give us a aerial view of what it looks like?
Well, let's start with this. In real estate, I find that we have 3 types of taxation. And we often commingle them. We kind of mix them up, or we think about one. What we're not talking about is capital gains tax. We're not talking about that. That's something totally different. And if you're aware of capital gains tax, you might be aware of what we call the 2 of the past 5 of the $500,000 exclusion for a married couple and $250,000 for a single if you live in a home 2 of the past 5 years. That's capital gains. We're not addressing that today. That's not the point of our discussion. We're also not talking about transfer tax. You buy a property and the county or the city are charging you a transfer tax. We're talking to you about is the county property tax. What are you paying to the county every year for your property tax? And what happens, Christina, is that there's a tax base. There's an amount that the county has assessed property at. And we want to keep that assessed value as low as possible, because under Prop 13, which still exists, even with Prop 19, your tax base is 1% of the assessed value, and then the incremental adjustments every year maxed out at 2%. So we want to keep that property tax base as low as we can so that you're only paying the smallest amount of the property tax associated with buying that home. And so Prop 19 says anywhere you move in the state of California, and it is the boundaries of the state of California. It's a California proposition. This is not a federal thing. This is not a national thing. This is very much a state of California thing. In other states, it is not uncommon for property taxes to be 3, 4, 5%. A lot of people are moving to Idaho. It's not uncommon in counties in Idaho to have 3 and 4% property taxes, 3 to 4% of the assessed value. Texas is the same way. A lot of people are moving to the state of Texas, and 2 and 3% is not uncommon in the state of Texas for a property tax assessment. So in California, to keep it at 1%, it's one of the silver linings, no pun intended, that allows us to keep our property taxes low. And if you're paying that within your mortgage, bottom line, you pay less for housing.
Mm-hmm. And the CAR, the California Association of Realtors, sent out some slides, and I would love for you to go over them.
Yeah, let's put them up so that we can give a visual, because I know I'm talking a lot of details, and we try not to do that all that much. We try to tell more stories and give, try to make things simple. But I think this overview will help you and give you a kind of a picture of what we're talking about. So who is this for? Well, it's for 3 categories of residents in the state of California. The first one, homeowners that are over 55 years old. Therefore, if you're not over the age of 55, or meet one of the other criteria, it's not going to qualify for you. Second criteria is if you're severely disabled, or if your home was destroyed by a wildfire or natural disaster. And of course, throughout the state of California, throughout the state, Northern and Southern California, we have a lot of victims of wildfire and natural disasters. And so what is it saying? If you're over 55 or severely disabled, or your home was destroyed by a wildfire, you may transfer that low taxable value of your primary residence, the current home you have, to a new home or a replacement home. And how can you do it? You can do it anywhere in the state of California. This used to exist in only certain counties, and you could only do this previously in counties that cooperated. If you wanted to do this outside of your current county, some counties cooperated and some counties didn't. That's all gone away. Now, anywhere in the state of California, if you're over 55, severely disabled, or you're a victim of a wildfire or natural disaster, you have the potential to transfer your low property tax base that you're enjoying on your property tax bill that you get from the county tax assessor, anywhere in the state, regardless of location. So this means that somebody could buy in a more vacation type community. It does have to be a primary residence, but if they're going to move into that property, they can do that regardless of location. It's also regardless of the value of the replacement primary residence, even if it's in greater in value. There's an upward adjustment in the tax base if the replacement property is of greater value. What are they saying? Well, you've got about $1 million cushion. So if you sold a property at one price and your tax base was lower and you bought it at another price, as long as that's within $1 million, they're going to adjust that property tax base, and you're going to be saving a ton of property taxes by doing that. You have to do it within 2 years of the sale of the original primary residence. Okay, this is, Christina, I think one of the most important things. If you don't know about it, you can't use it, because you've got to know about it and you got to apply for it. It's not going to happen automatically. Nobody's looking at the closing statements on your home and the closing statements on your purchase and saying, oh, you qualify. You have to apply for it. I can't think of a bigger mistake in real estate than real estate professionals that are not guiding their clients through Prop 19, and they go on for many, many years or perhaps decades paying an unnecessarily high property tax base. It's not necessary. And before you could only do it one time, and now you can do it up to 3 times, and there's no limit for those whose house has been destroyed by wildfire or natural disaster. So we're talking 3 categories of citizens. The homeowners that are over 55, they can qualify. We're talking about the citizens that are severely disabled in the state of California. We're talking about the residents in the state of California that have been impacted by the wildfire, and they can sell that property that they have a very low property tax base and move it to the next one.
That's good.
Along with their TV and their China hutch, and moving boxes, they pack up their property tax and they take it with them.
So now would be a time to downsize too for.
That's right. And there's a lot of people that have felt that because of the high property taxes based on high sales price or high purchase price, they felt like they were trapped. And maybe they're not in the home that fits the characteristics of what they want anymore. They want something bigger or smaller. Maybe they want to be in a different community and they felt like they were trapped because they would be paying a higher property tax bill. This can help provide some relief.
And you alluded to the fact that you either use it or lose it. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about the process. So I'm guessing it's not like you sit back and you get a stimulus check in the mail. I'm sure you have to take some action. So can you tell us, like, what paperwork do we need to fill out?
Yeah.
Do we need to hire a lawyer? Does our agent take care of it? What do we need to do to use these benefits?
Okay, so let me give you 5 steps, Christina.
Okay.
5 steps that you can follow to make sure this works for you. The first step is you got to know about Prop 19 and the restrictions. And there are some restrictions that we just don't have the time to get into. And there's a whole nother half of this about inheritance that is not the subject of today's podcast, but you should know about it. And where you want to look for this information is on the BOE's website, the Board of Equalization. And there are some matrix there, there's some FAQs, there's some additional information, and that's where you go to just learn about it. I hope this podcast sparks interest, it sparks inquiry. People want to know more about Prop 19 and they're looking into it. That's where I want you to go, because that's the governing authority for Prop 19. It's not even your county tax assessor anymore. It's Board of Equalization as the governing authority. So we want to make sure that you're familiar with what it is and how you can, what restrictions exist, and eventually how you can apply. Here's step 2. You need to know the value of your home. You absolutely need to know the value of your home, and you need to know your current tax base. Well, that's pretty easy. For example, if you're in Contra Costa County, which is one of our 9 Bay Area counties, you can go to a website, cctax.us, put in your property address, and look at your property tax bill. And in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see your tax base. And that is the tax base that we're talking about that you can potentially transfer to the next property without it becoming a new reassessable event. And so number two, you need to know your current home value and what the tax base is on your current property, the one you're living in now. Here's step three. You need to know what your purchase price is going to be. There are some exclusions to this. Step three is where are you going to move to and what is that price going to be? What kind of property, what purchase price are you going to purchase the home? And why am I talking about purchase price? Because the purchase price, when the property is purchased, it creates a new assessable event, and that is often becomes the assessed tax base of the next property. So that becomes your new tax bill, becomes your new tax base. It's based off of often what you purchase the home is what the assessor will deem as the tax base of the property. So number three, what's the price of the property that you're purchasing so that we know what the difference is. Here's step four. You need to close on both. You need to close escrow on both properties. Step five, you've closed, you have your closing statement, and immediately, don't wait on this, don't set it aside, immediately, you need to go to the Board of Equalization site and pull up the application. There's an application if you're 55 and older. There's an application if you're a wildfire victim, and there's an application if you're severely disabled. You can complete that application. You generally provide some information, some supporting documents on each property. Your real estate professional can give that to you like a closing statement, which is from the title company, which tells you your closing date and your purchase price. And then you submit those documents to the Board of Equalization. 5 steps. Know about it and the restrictions. Number 2, know what your current property tax base is. Number 3, know about the future property that you're planning to buy. What's the price so we can figure out what the property tax base. Number 4, you want to make sure that you close escrow on both of them. You can't do this in hopes of closing. It's the idea is you've closed on one, you closed on the other. Now we apply for it. In step 5, you do just that and apply. Follow those 5 steps and do them, sequentially, and do the 5th one right away. Don't wait on it. You get that closing statement from the title company. I suggest that you do it immediately. And that'll help you ensure that you can transfer that tax base within the state of California.
That's so good to know. And you and I are both in our 40s, and it sounds like there's a lot of opportunities. I know you don't have that magic ball, but the crystal ball, but do you think that this will be a long-term opportunity, or do you think this is a short-term opportunity?
I think it's going to be around for a while. And the reason I think it's going to be around for a while is because the pressure is there to create housing opportunities and to create mobility. And what's happened for a very long time, we just haven't had enough inventory. And when one person moves, whether they transfer their tax base or not, when they make the move, it opens up another home for somebody else, which gives an opportunity for a buyer to enter into that market. So I think it's going to be around for quite some time. The other side of this Prop 19 is inheritance. And without getting into all the details, you and I did a podcast with an attorney that we talked about this even prior to Prop 19 rolling out. And we talked all about the inheritance side. But the inheritance side of this is designed to create tax revenue. So some of the things that people were able to do with an inherited property, especially rental properties, under Prop 19, they cannot do, and they are going to be reassessed. And that's creating a revenue stream for the government that allows this to be really, to create revenue, tax revenue. And so because of that, I don't think that this is going to be short-lived. I think it's going to be around for a long time. The actual Prop 19 mobility piece, allowing homeowners to move without being punished to buy another property with a higher tax base, the entire real estate community was behind. The inheritance piece, a little different story, but the entire real estate community was lobbying for something that created the ability for people to have mobility throughout the state of California.
And I'm glad you brought up the inheritance piece. We're not going to go there fully, but when we posted this on social, immediately I had a friend write on the post, and she said, "Hey, mom and dad, move closer to me." She's grown with her family, and so what can adult children do to help their parents through this process? It seems complicated, or when parents get older, they could be tentative about this. So how can an adult child help their parents?
Well, I think when adult parents or parents of adult children are looking at their property tax bill, they're thinking, I can't move. Because if I were to move, I am going to pay a lot higher property taxes, and I don't want my income to go purely to our county. I think share this podcast. Take this podcast that we have, share it. This is an informational podcast. We've got nothing to sell on this podcast. It's designed to keep people updated on the market and to create options. So share this podcast. I hope we've made it simple. I hope we've made it clear. Even as complicated as what it is, we hope we've tried to create some scenarios that you can see how this would play out. Share this podcast. Another one, send them the link to the Board of Equalization. There's a matrix on there that talks about before April 1st and after April 1st and how that all changed, and see if they qualify for that. And then maybe start sending them some properties that may be in that community that you think may be a better fit for them. And so what can often happen is this podcast combined with the Board of Equalization and some properties may spark some interest, and they want to learn more. Then they can always contact us. Well, this is our third podcast on this topic. We did a couple of these podcasts before it actually launched on April 1st of 2021 in anticipation of it. Today's kind of a follow-up and maybe an overview. Watch some of those other podcasts because I think they'll be helpful to you and provide even further detail. And if you need more help, contact us. Christina and I would be happy to put you in contact with somebody that can further answer your questions. Or if you've got a specific question, we do have a contact at the BOE that can answer those questions on your behalf, and we do that quite frequently. So I would just tell them, make your parents, your adult parents, aware of this and available to these resources.
Mm-hmm. And obviously everyone has a unique situation. And so those are great resources you listed. And you also have a free home valuation too, that I think is valuable for people to find out what the property is worth, like you mentioned earlier.
And if you don't know how to find a property tax bill, maybe you're a trustee or administrator of a probate, or maybe you have some other situation in which you just don't have access to your property tax bill, contact us. We'll pull it up for you. We need your address or your parcel number, and we'll send you your property tax bill, your latest property tax bill, so you can see what your tax base is and whether it's worth transferring it.
And how should somebody contact you?
Well, the best way to do it is to visit our website, rickfuller.com. And if you like these podcasts, you can always go to what we call our digital business card, which has all of our videos, our podcasts, social media connections, tools, and resources. And you can do that at connectwithrickfuller.com.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, that's all the time we have for today. So thank you, Rick, for clarifying Prop 19. I feel like anything that has to do with the government gets me a little confused. So thank you again for being our guide through this process and for giving us all these great resources. And I'll put all of those emails and links into the comments section. And be sure to go to rickfuller.com and click on Connect with Rick, like you said, because we have so many great resources. And like we said, the free home evaluation. So be sure to go there. Thank you for spending part of your day with us. And remember what Rick always says, not owning real estate is hazardous to your wealth. Thanks, Rick.
Bye-bye.